All right. It is January 1st, 2020, and I am super excited to talk about this. I've been telling people that I've got big plans, and as we move into 2020, and here we go. This is it. This is the intro episode of the TeamGrit podcast. I'm super excited. We have a few members here of TeamGrit. Ari Kreidner, who's already part of the St. Jude Heroes. She's raised some money in Grit's honor for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And now she's a member of Team Grit, or has always been. But we're going to try to go bigger and better in 2020. And to my right is my good friend and PhD Missouri Tiger, Brandon Wollock. Brandon is an excellent writer, has been a good friend for a lot of years, and he's a good talker, and I'm excited to have him on board. And we're going to okay, you can edit all that out. Okay. Yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm a little nervous too. All right. So, the biggest goal for Team Grit in 2020, I started running for Lent last year, and when I first started, I couldn't go a mile, and I couldn't do more than 10 push-ups, and now I'm way over that. And right now I'm announcing it on video on this podcast that I am going to run the St. Jude Marathon in December of this year. We as a team are trying to get 100 people to join us in running the St. Jude Marathon or a local marathon and raise $10,000 apiece for a total of $1 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I know it's a lofty goal, but I'm excited. And I know my friends here are too. And I'm going to stop talking, and enough with the ums, and I'm going to let Brandon and Ari talk for a few minutes. And
ladies first. Go for it.
Thank you. I'm Ari Kreidner, and I met the Hendersons a few years ago through my husband, Jason. And this was before Grit. And before Grit, you could tell immediately these were great people. There was no doubt in my mind that these were going to be great friends, no matter what we were going to go through. So when we got the news about Grit, it was absolutely heart-wrenching to me. Cancer has touched me and my family. I lost my dad when he was 60. One of my very best friends, she was diagnosed a few years ago, but she's beat that. But for a child of this age, it broke my heart, and I just could not understand this. I could not figure out why this was happening. I am not very good when I can't fix something, and I didn't know what to do to help, and I knew I couldn't fix it. And so I had to ask myself, what can I do to help them? What can I do that can make this journey a little bit easier, a little bit better for them? And so the first thing I started looking at were these fundraisers. And to me, personally, I couldn't believe how much it changed me physically, because a lot of these fundraisers, they are athletic events or something to do with some type of activity. The first one was the Warrior Dash a couple years ago. It pushes you to do things you didn't think that you could do. So I raised money for St. Jude in honor of Grit for the Warrior Dash. Next thing that came up last March was the Ride for the Reason, 4-hour spin class. That was interesting. That was a good one. And Team Grit
some chafing
for the Kansas City ride, Team Grit raised the most money out of everybody, and it was an extremely proud moment to be able to do that. This past September, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and so St. Jude has their 5Ks all over the country. So obviously I was going to go ahead and do that, and it was just a 5K, but I've never really been that big of a runner, but doing that and being able to finish that race with grit. I stopped and got him.
That's right.
About 50 yards before the finish line, and it was just fantastic to carry him with me across that line. It was a pretty great moment. So those things, they help me personally. They keep me motivated. Training, I have committed to the rock and roll series through St. Jude Marathons for July 19th in Chicago. I'm going to do the half. And when you're out there running in those days that you do not want to run and it hurts and you're tired, all I think about is what Grit has gone through, what the entire Henderson family has gone through, and it just pushes you. You have no excuse. You have no excuse to stop. You have no excuse to complain. And that, to me, that's kind of my focus lately, and kind of what I'll carry on through this is I needed something to focus on, and I feel like this is it, and this is going to be a big part of my life, and it's going to be a purpose in my life. So that is why I'm here, and I'm very happy and excited about it.
Oh, Nolan's got to take care of some business back here for rattling around.
You can edit that, or we can keep it in.
No, I think that's people are.
I think it's important people to see the emotion. I told you we were going to
Yeah.
cry at some point,
Yeah.
so it's okay. I think crying in this, I'm going to be the worst one,
You might be.
and
Yeah.
I'm the biggest one too. So I don't really care.
I don't care. We'll cry a lot. It's all.
I used to, when Brandon, I know it's probably the same way for you. And in your area, you're kind of a tomboy, like into sports and stuff.
Yes.
So, and your dad probably treated you like a boy left. So you know that don't cry. There's no crying. And now, and I was the same way. I didn't see my dad shed a tear my entire life until when his mom passed away. It's the only time I've ever seen him cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't ever seen him cry since. Maybe he has I don't know, but I just don't care anymore. I'm tough enough. If you want to get in my face and call me whatever, title's always up. He was always up for taking a shot at it if you really want to. So
I think that's a good jump. Like, so to me, grit doesn't necessarily mean like not crying and being like, it means courage and going through it anyway and coming out the other side better. Sometimes there's going to be tears involved in that. It's not. Stoicism's important, don't get me wrong, but like seriously, it's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of emotion involved in this, and there's love, and that's why when you said your dad cried, I mean, like he lost his mom, like you can't, like that's a whole lot of love right there. So I mean, that's kind of why I'm here. I mean, like when I met you, heck, it started going on 8-9 years ago at this point, almost a decade into our friendship and stuff, and we first started coaching football together. We probably butted heads. We're very similar, loud, brash, very not Midwestern types in that. And we quickly became best friends, I'd say, like coaching football together and just going through that. And, all the trials and tribulations in life, getting married, starts and stops and some of that stuff. And then I found out I'm going to be a dad just before you did. And then you found out that you're going to have grit. And I was looking forward to getting to go through the traditional fatherhood thing with my buddy, and there's different plans sometimes for that, and that's kind of why I'm here. I'm a dad myself, and I've been really lucky that my son Ben, who's about to turn 4 in March, incredibly healthy. He's had like one ear infection maybe and a couple of colds, and that's it. And I see my best friend and his family fighting the battle of their life, and my family in Las Vegas follows that fight, and I just see how far out these roots go, that it's touched a lot of people what this one little boy could do, and that is why I'm here. Like the things that I think I go through in life that are tough, and we all have things we go through, and it is tough, but this has redefined the word grit to me, And like to name your son Grit before you knew this fight that he was going to have like, you're like the Amazing Kreskin or something. But my God, it's touched my life. And, you know, you guys are more, I guess, more aerobic types than I am. I like to lift weights. And I'd say I'm a power lifter. That's overstating it quite a bit. I like to do things that are, I like to power lift, but I'm not a power lifter. I'm not that strong. But on my last set, I always try to figure out, could I do one more rep? And if so, who's this one for? And I don't know how many times it's been Grit. You know, it is. And I'm not just saying that for this podcast. And I work myself up just thinking like, you know, think of Jocko Willink, right? It is good. Mm-hmm. You know, that one, if you haven't heard that, check it out. It's fantastic. That's got me through a few too, but sometimes it's nice to make it more personal. And we all go through things, but yeah, this weight that I've got above my head or I've got to get off the floor, it's really nothing. It becomes a feather and it comes up super easy every single time. And that's why I'm here too. So it's a pleasure to be here, to get to talk with both of you about Grit, about, you know, parenthood, about education some. Mm-hmm. I think that's where, if in my professional life, where I tend to hang my hat, I study economics. And
you know what I love the Jocko stuff. That's kind of what really moved me forward. I even bought 2 of the posters, the good posters. I've one in my basement and one in my classroom.
Do the kids know who he is?
Well, they're learning because at the beginning of the semester, I always play videos for just leadership and stuff, mm-hmm. and I'm always playing some type of military or athletic or somebody in academia. But I always use Jocko and a lot of the military people. A lot of the books like Make Your Bed, General McChrystal, that's Admiral. Which Admiral is that? Oh crap! The Make Your Bed guy. I totally forgot.
Jordan Peterson?
No, I don't bring Jordan Peterson into the classroom. Although I like Jordan Peterson, so not gonna. People that live here in our town and in Lawrence know who I am and know what I teach. And you know, as we move into this podcast, we're going to talk about education. And I think people really want to know, but I won't talk about kids directly. I'll drop names and stuff. Although some of your kids may be topics of some of the subjects. I'll be very professional. It'll be fun. I think it's important. It's so we can all grow. But the Jocko stuff, I'm Jocko Willink, huge. I got the Kids the Warrior Kid books. Grit's got Mikey and the Dragons. I've got all of his books, pre-ordered audiobooks, listened to his podcast. And it actually turned me to David Goggins, mm-hmm. which is where I really started to get motivated. I finished his book, I don't know, right before football started. And I'd bought it before, but I'd never finished it, and I picked it up when I was working out, and I know he's intense. I know he curses a lot, and that rubs people the wrong way, but that motivates me. I mean, when he said, you got to have yourself an accountability bear, and if in the form of a mirror, and just a little pocket mirror, and you look at it, the only person that's keeping you from accomplishing your goals is that accountability bear. And if you need to tell you need to look at your accountability bear, and he'll tell you, you want to lose weight. He's not going to be nice about it. He's got to be honest with you and say, hey, you fat fuck, you need to lose some weight. And I know that doesn't work for some people. It's inappropriate for some people. But for me, in my personal time, not in my classroom, it works. I love it.
Well, most people don't really accomplish their goals. It's easy to set them. I don't know how many times as a teacher, as a coach, everybody wants to go D1. Everybody wants to do that, and they think that like LeBron James. Oh, he's gifted. He's 6 foot whatever, and he can do. Yeah, all those guys are that tall and that strong. You don't think he's working out every day? He's got a little accountability bear that like he wants it more than all those guys that are at the top of their game. That's what it takes in life. A lot of people are very happy and comfortable in just being mediocre. It's much easier to do that, and it's also easier to live in this victimhood culture we currently find ourselves in and blame everybody else in society for every little thing that's gone wrong. That's another thing that grit means to me too. Like, it's being accountable and taking responsibility for yourself and not blaming something that's truly an awful situation, but what are you going to do? You just got to fight. You just got to get up every morning and fight.
And that's what it is for me. I mean, I grew up a fighter. I didn't start off as a fighter. I got beat up a lot. I got picked on by family members. I'm not going to talk too much stuff on you, but you know who you are. I got picked on, got beat up. I had the Americano, the American name, Henderson, when everybody else had one of the cool, Diaz, Martinez, Hernandez. And they picked, in the 80s when Russia was taking over and, Rocky kicked the crap out of Drago. They'd pick on me and call me Russia, and I'd be running around crying like a little bitch and stuff. And I just remember that. And then I finally hit back, and people didn't like it. And I found out I was pretty good at hitting back, and combative sports were my thing. And once I found the motivation, I'm sad that it took me to this point as an adult to really find that motivation, get after it. But now, I mean, I wake up every day with that fighter's mentality, and I tape my hands and I go. And that's why I'm excited. I lift weights too, but I wait that commercial, which is going to launch us, right? The St. Jude Christmas commercial, where it says Nolan in small print and Grit's dad in big print underneath it. 7 million views, and I look at myself in that picture and I think about David Goggins, and I'm like, hey, you get after it. And I weighed 297, almost 300 pounds, was having anxiety attacks, which I've never had in my entire life. And it happened before a TV interview when we were doing Dream Home fundraising. I go in, I'm fat, I'm overweight. I had to be pushing 297. I probably weighed 300 some pounds that day just because I probably drank a Pepsi and a Gatorade, and I'm sure they had awesome donuts and cookies before I went on. And I remember it freaked me out. I don't get nervous. I could talk all day. And they say, we're on in a minute, and I'm standing in front of the camera, and then everything goes black. And my heart's rate, I'm sweaty. I can't, everything is discombobulated. I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. I'm going to die on live TV. But I looked fine because nobody was like, are you okay? And then they were like, on in 3, 2. Came right out of it, nailed the interview. Probably find it online. And like nothing happened. And then it happened again right before the football parents meeting. I've never, like I said, I've been in charge of kids for years and talked to parents for years. And I've given so many speeches now for St. Jude in front of so many people. My years as a stand-up comedian, no problems. No problems talking to people. Boy, it was because I was fat. My doctor was on. Thank God the doctor was like, you could afford to lose some weight. And then I went to the gym, but it was more like, I'm going to go to the gym, drink some water, sit in the steam room or sauna for an hour, and, use the pec deck and go get a protein shake and leave. And then one day, it clicked. It turned over. And my first goal was to get to 240, and last night Laura and I were in the bathroom and I'm there. So
hey, all right, well, that's a good way to kick off. Congratulations.
So I weighed 300 pounds. There's probably not too many 300 pounders that have ran a marathon before. So that's the reason why I want to do it. Plus it's for the kids and St. Jude. I love that. You don't have to run the marathon. You just got to help us get people to run a marathon.
When is it? Where is it? What's the? You might convince me to do this.
It's in Denver. Why is Denver on my mind? It's in Memphis. In December. In December. Part of the marathon goes through the campus.
That's wonderful.
So it's a pretty neat deal.
At the very least, I wouldn't mind even volunteering to work at. I'm sure they need people to do that too.
Well, I can get you all the volunteer hours for St. Jude that you could ask for. So be careful.
I'd love to.
Can you tell Grit's story?
I thought you didn't want me to cry.
Well, I figured that's like...
Yeah, so, okay, we'll go into that. So, when Grit was 3 months old, he was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer called embryonorhabdomyosarcoma. It was pretty devastating to us. We'd never even heard of it. And at that point, it was so rare that only a handful of kids were diagnosed with it every year. And at that time, he was the youngest. Since that time, we've met actually a younger kid than Grit. They found it in utero. But, it's tough to tell the story. But it's not at the same time. I just remember we didn't know what to do. We were completely shocked because 3 months before that it was, you have a perfectly healthy baby, and we did everything right. We waited to have the baby. We waited. We saved the money. I mean, we did everything how you're supposed to. I'm a human growth and development teacher. I was excited about going to the doctor's visits and stuff. And so we just didn't know what to do, so we just started looking up where we could go, where was the best. I was determined to saw myself in two if it meant getting him the best treatment. It was at St. Jude. And January 7th, 2018, we moved to Memphis. Well, Laura and Grit moved to Memphis, and Ella lived with Grandma and Grandpa and her dad, and I drove back and forth every week, or flew back and forth every week, sometimes multiple days a week. Worked as much as I could. I hardly missed a day of work. I mean, I was a moving fool. And 2 years later, this time in 2019, we were about to our last checkup, and when we had been clear for a year, and this spot that they had been watching in their lung grew, and everything started over. So our year, oh boy, and since that time, with this the chemo that we're on now is one of the originals that they used to treat this, and we had the tumor removed from his lung, which is we'll get into that story later. But the tools and stuff that was invented by a doctor at St. Jude to pull that out. Grit had that surgery. We've been clear since then, and so 2 years into this, and our year scan is in a few weeks, and I don't know. I don't worry about it, but I do at the same time. I think Laura's the same way. It's almost like we've been fighting this fight. We'll do it as long as we have to, no matter the stress, and it's been tough. But that's the whole point of the podcast. Everyone's been affected. Ari talked about her dad, and I'm going to assume someone in your family has passed away from cancer. Mm-hmm. My grandmother had breast cancer. My father's beat cancer. Jason, Ari's husband, I'm sure everybody in this room right now, and there's been some great people we've met along the way, and we're going to have them come in and tell their stories, and there's going to be other organizations, teams. I have some people off the top of my head that raise money themselves that we're going to have on. I'm excited about that. I do have permission to work with ALSAC, which is the fundraising side of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I would love to. I think it's not going to be easy, but I think we're going to be able to get people to come on to the podcast from the hospital. And I'm talking about everybody that's in the guts of that thing. I'm talking about nurses, janitors, receptionists. You go into this place, it's just absolutely amazing, and we'll let them tell part of their story. we'll have families that may be going through cancer themselves, and hopefully we'll raise some money for them. And we'll talk about some education. We'll talk about families. And 2020 is going to be a big year for Team Grit.
Can we have some questions about the podcast? Because I'm still learning how all this is going to work too. So obviously it starts with Grit and his story, and it branches out. So do you see this podcast finding an audience, or is this motivational? Is this comedy? Is this educational? What do you see this? Who is going to enjoy this podcast, and what are they going to take away from this?
For me, and when I was talking to you guys about this, I like the call tag Team Grit podcast: motivation, inspiration, education.
Trifecta.
The trifecta. The trifecta.
That's right. And it'll be funny. I don't know how funny I actually am, but I'm pretty funny. So I'm going to tell jokes, whether the people laugh.
Okay. So I can be funny too. Okay.
We'll just be ourselves.
Oh my gosh, that's a weight off my shoulders. I'm going to start trying super hard now.
I think it'll be great for people to see what normal people do and how they fight the fight. And over the last 2 years, I've been told by multiple people, you inspire me. I couldn't do what you do. You and your family are amazing. And that's why we're doing it. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for Grit. I'm doing it for Laura. I'm doing it for Ella. We're doing it for our families and this family and Team Grit.
So if people want to get involved, want to help, do things of that nature, what do you recommend? If they, like, a lot of people want to help, what do they do?
We're moving forward with that. And I think we'll have our Team Grit St. Jude Heroes group available by the time we launch our first full podcast.
Perfect. So stay tuned, and we'll have some stuff coming out shortly so people can get involved and help out.
The goal right now is to release a podcast on Monday and Friday of every week.
Fantabulous.
All right, you good there?
Let's close it.